So for my court system, I would not be changing all that much about the court system. I would still keep the same structure that we have in place with the district to circuit to Supreme Court. The same number of courts, 94 district, 13 circuits, and one Supreme Court with the same number of justices. But I would add a special death penalty court to take on death penalty cases. In those cases, whether they were at the state or federal level, would automatically go to the death penalty court just to make sure that those rulings were fair and even across the country, because of it's only fair if the death penalty is even across the line. The big changes that I would make to the court, though, would be in the nomination process. So instead of the president being in charge of all the nominations, I would give some power back to the states. The way that I would do this is when there's a vacancy open in the district level, there would be a rolling list, I guess just alphabetically, and it would be that state's turn. So say we'd start with Alabama, and that governor would nominate a candidate of their choice, and then they would go through the same Senate confirmation process. And if that candidate is confirmed and they fill a seat, and the next nomination would go to the next state after that. And if the candidate does not get the nomination, that state would still lose their chance, so it would go to the next one. And I think that would be a good way to do it, because that would really push states to go for more moderate judges, more unpartisan judges, and really make a strong selection that the Senate would approve of. I also like this idea because it lets each state have an opportunity to get someone from their state or someone that they really believe should be a justice. And I think it would really diversify the court, and I think it would really represent the country as a whole better, instead of just justices that are close with the president, or the president doing personal favors for, someone else from another state. This way each state would get involved. So I really like that idea. And then the circuit courts, when they had a vacancy, they would fill it by taking the most senior judge from the district level. They would have the option to fill that, and I would assume that they would take that as a promotion. And so they would fill that, and then that empty seat in the district would again go through that gubernatorial process. As for the Supreme Court, this is kind of the big change that I had. And those, the district court, once they get nominated, they'll receive a 20-year term, basically. And if they accept the nomination to go to the circuit court, they'll get 10 more years added onto that. But for the Supreme Court, the way that I would do it is the president would nominate the Chief Justice, and they would have to come in on a supermajority in the Senate. And so this would really make sure that it's someone that everyone approves of, and someone who is very moderate and nonpartisan. And they would then select their other 8 justices. And I think that's a good option because, and also the selection has to be someone that's from the federal court. So they've already been nominated from the regular majority. They're familiar with the court system, and then they'll be able to select their justices, which I think is better than the president or Congress selecting them, because they know more about the judicial system and the process and what it takes to have a fair, balanced court. So, And I would give that Chief Justice 10 years, and he or she, they would run it for 10 years, and then the process would happen again. And if justice were to leave the court, the Chief Justice would fill it in. If they were to leave the court, they would have picked a second in charge when they first came in, and they would take over for the rest of the 10 years. And the process of selecting a new one would begin 2 years before the end of the 10 years, just because it could be a long process with a supermajority. And that way we'd ensure that, there wasn't a huge holdup. And if it does go a little over 10 years, that Chief Justice will just hold the position until it's eventually filled. But I think it would really just force Congress to work it out and force the president to really pick a good candidate that's not super partisan. And the Chief Justice can pick anyone that's served in the federal court or the Supreme Court prior to be on there, and it doesn't matter if they've served up all their term limits in the prior courts, they'd get a new 10 years to serve. And also for the death penalty court, it would be a 3-person court selected by the Chief Justice, and they get life terms. Once they leave their seat, the Chief Justice just nominates a new one, and there's no confirmation there. The Chief Justice just chooses. And let's see. As for the caseload, it would be similar to the structure today. You would just see the district court split up the civil and criminal cases based on their jurisdiction. And then if someone wanted to appeal, they'd go to appeals. And then if they wanted to appeal that, they'd go to the Supreme Court. If they wanted to hear it, they would hear the case. And that is my idea for the new courts. So similar structure, just a lot of difference in the nomination and confirmation. And I think it would really help with the polarization and the politicization. And I think it would help give some more power to the judiciary, especially in the Supreme Court. I think it would keep the court fresh and moving with the times with a new Chief Justice and the possibility of almost a completely new court every 10 years. So I think that'd be good and progressive, and I think it would keep it nonpartisan. That's the most important thing.